All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I always hesitate and hate to interrupt such wonderful conversations, especially now that we have so much synergy and so many of you that are able to participate in Convocation. So thank you. Welcome to Fall 2023 Convocation. We're so very, very happy to have you here. And for some of you who I have not met or have not met me, my name is Dr. Art Pimentel, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving as the college president at Folsom Lake College. So thank you and welcome. We're going to kick off with our first speaker, and it's my pleasure to welcome to the podium Trustee Pamela Haynes, who serves as the Vice President for the Los Rios Community College District Board of Trustees. Trustee Haynes.
So you know how the saying goes, we save the best to last? We've saved the best to last. Thank you, Folsom Lake College. I'm so glad to be here. One of my colleagues, Kelly Wilkerson, was supposed to give remarks, and she's come down with COVID. So I did not want the best saved to last not to have a trustee. So I have made my way up here, and so I'm going to start my remarks. When I come up at least once a year, but I am one of the older trustees, both in age and time on the board, in which I know what Folsom Lake looked like more than 15 years ago. When I came on the board 24 years ago, this was just land, and everything around it was just land. And so as I drove up today, I recognized this is a full-fledged, fully developed community college, and you have a lot to be proud of. And so I think you really should give yourself a round of applause because of the work you've been doing with students and with the community. I'm going to applaud you. So on behalf of the entire Los Rios Community College District Board of Trustees, I'm delighted to be with Folsom Lake faculty and staff today to help kick off the fall 2023 semester. As a trustee, Convocation is a day I look forward to because it is a chance for me to welcome all of you back and to recognize the important work you engage in with our students. It is also an opportunity to recognize our colleges for their work to prepare for another outstanding and impactful year here at Folsom Lake College. And while many of our students are not here physically, and I suspect that some of them are, we are all here because of our students, those who are returning, and most especially our new students who are enrolling for the first time. For these students, as my mother used to say, it's an opportunity for us to make a good first impression. This fall is particularly exciting as our enrollment, both at Folsom Lake and throughout Los Rios, is showing signs of rebounding, and we are on track to restore pre-pandemic levels within the next couple of years. I think we need to applaud that. We don't do anything without our students, and that we're on the rise is critically, critically important. And I have to tell you that makes my colleagues and I on the Board of Trustees incredibly proud, as we know that creating access to our colleges for our community is at the heart of what we do. And it starts with getting students enrolled. But we all know that that's just the start, because the ultimate goal is for our students to persist and complete. And we sort of use success, and success is a wonderful way of saying they've succeeded. But I would like to use complete because it really means, from their vantage point, they have completed. And I think that's an important marker for many of our students. Our colleges, largely because of all of you in this room this afternoon, you help to change lives. You help to lift people out of poverty. You change the trajectories of entire families, and in many cases, neighborhoods and communities. We help people who are often from communities that have been left behind. Once they are at our colleges, your commitment to meet students where they are, to focus on their goals, to design with their experiences in mind, it is all of you, our talented, passionate staff and faculty, as well as administrators. You are the key to helping them achieve their dream by turning that dream into reality. And so, on behalf of the entire Los Rios Board of Trustees, I want to say thank you. Let me say it again. Thank you for everything you do every day on behalf of our students. And I hope that each of you has an incredibly fulfilling and successful fall semester. And now it is my pleasure to welcome our Chancellor, Brian King. Thanks again.
Well, how are we doing at Folsom Lake College today? So the house lights are up, and this is a youthful group at Folsom Lake. This is our youngest college, but I'm talking about the youth of the group here today. How many of you were not yet born in 1979? Okay, stand up. Go ahead and stand up if you were not alive in 1979. So that's about half of our group was not born in 1979. So go ahead and take your seat. How many of us have pretty clear memories from 1979? So if you think back, those of you who were somewhere along in life in 1979, think about what was going on. There was a big controversy back in 1979. So think back in 79, what was going on. You had to choose sides. You were on one side or the other. And whatever choice you made, people made judgments about you. It said something about who you are. There were things going on like the Iranian hostage crisis, normalization of relations with China, but this was a bigger deal. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Star Wars versus Star Trek? Good guess, 77. In 79, though, the choice you had to make was, were you rock and roll or were you disco? So I don't know about this group. How many of you raise your hand if you were on team rock and roll, from Jimi Hendrix to AC/DC? Got the rock and rollers. Disco? Okay, we got some disco. Little bit of a mix, but you had to choose. You had to choose back in the day. And in a lot of ways, you think about some of the things we're dealing with today, there are similarities about having to choose sides. At first glance, it seems like maybe it wasn't that important, but even in the music choice, if you dig a little deeper, there were issues of race, there were issues of gender, there were issues of class. And the New York Times and other periodicals have written analyses of what was going on in the battle between rock and roll and disco, and analyzing how it became such a big deal. And anybody remember what happened in Chicago in 1979? About rock and roll versus disco, there was a radio DJ. Those of you who were born in 79 don't know what a DJ is, right? The best hits from the 70s, 80s, and 90s from now until midnight. You know, people used to do that for a living. And a DJ, Steve Dahl in Chicago, had an event in between a doubleheader at a baseball game where it was going to be Destroy Disco, and it ended up in a riot. So they weren't able to play the second game. So something that on the surface shouldn't have been a big deal became so divisive and so disruptive for so many people. Does that sound at all familiar in 2023, when issues that maybe shouldn't matter so much end up pitting us against them? Are you part of the in-group or the out-group? And how do we address those different issues? And I want to be really clear. In the last few years, we've had some courageous discussions about issues involving social justice. That's not what I'm talking about in this unnecessary polarization and toxicity. There are really courageous conversations we need to have, and when we talk about the goals we're working together to achieve, we need to have space to have really brave conversations and be honest with each other. But in too many ways, it feels like, in many instances, today is as polarized as it's ever been. How many of you feel like in your lifetime the world around you is as polarized as it's ever been? Raise your hand if you have a sense of that being the way the world is today. If you feel that way, there are statistics that back that feeling up. There was a survey in the last year. 20% of the respondents, so 1 out of 5, said they didn't just think those who opposed them should lose political power, they thought we would be better off if they died. Think about that. Think about that level of animosity. And the good news is at Folsom Lake College and all the Los Rios colleges, overcoming that tendency to toxicity is our unity of purpose, and our students are why we do what we do. And many of you have an experience like I did. The first job I had when I was out of school was a perfectly okay job, but at the end of the day when I left, I didn't really know for sure if the world was a better or a worse place, if people's lives were better because of that job. How many of you have had a job like that? You weren't doing anything terrible. And then I started teaching, and I knew that every day, on the good days or the bad days, that there was a purpose and an opportunity to improve the lives of students. So that was back in 1991, and I thought I was going to teach for a short period of time at a community college, and now I've been able to spend a lot of years in this purpose that has never changed during all the time that all of us have been involved in community colleges, the unity of purpose and the clarity of our mission. So as we start the new semester, that clarity of purpose and the clarity of mission and unity of purpose has us working together to achieve 3 very important goals. And since we are at a college, there will be a quiz. 3 things we're going to talk about in these goals. The first is restore. Can you say restore? The second is maintain. And the third is ensure. So we're going to restore access, we're going to maintain fiscal stability at our colleges, and we're going to ensure equitable outcomes for all of our students. So the first goal, we have really good news to share, as Trustee Haynes indicated. When you think back to the beginning of the pandemic, enrollment had been slowly declining at community colleges, including Los Rios, for about 10 years before the pandemic hit in 2020. So there had been a slow decline. Then what happened in March of 2020 and then the years after in our enrollment? We went way down, and tragically, it just breaks your heart, the students who needed us most were the students most likely not to find us during the pandemic. So as we restore access, it's not just in numbers, we have to be very attuned to returning access, or restoring access to students of color, our black and brown students, our indigenous students, students who are low income, and students who are first generation. So very important work to restore access. Everybody agree that that's a goal we share, restoring access? And let's be honest, here at Folsom Lake College, we need to grow. When you drive through the area, and I live in Folsom, so I'm really aware of all the houses that are coming in. So there's a tremendous opportunity in Folsom to restore enrollment and even go beyond that. So let's take a look at what some good numbers we have to share. Spring of 22 to spring of 23, the largest single increase term to term in at least 15 years, if not ever, in the history of our district. That's applause worthy, don't you think? So what's rule 1 of holes? Sometimes people say, you know, dig your way out of a hole. No, you stop digging. So we've stopped digging as far as the decline in enrollment or making progress. But it gets better. For the summer of 23, the increase term to term from summer of 22 to summer of 23 is even more. So that's good news, right? And the fall semester is the largest semester typically in terms of enrollment, And the dust won't settle for a while on fall enrollment, but we're up more than 8% compared to last fall. So thanks to all of you. Congratulations in doing a great job in helping us achieve together that first goal, restoring enrollment. Now, we have unity of purpose. We don't always have consensus on strategy and metrics. We'll continue to have healthy discussions about what are the best strategies to restore, and in the case of Folsom Lake College, grow enrollment beyond pandemic levels. That's healthy. We'll have collegial conversations, we'll have strategy meetings, and we'll continue to work together and achieve the goal, even though we won't always agree 100% on the best way to achieve the goal or the best tactics. The second goal doesn't sound very glamorous, it's not very sexy, maintaining fiscal stability, but it's a really crucial goal and something that Los Rios does really well. And honestly, I think if you've worked your whole career at Los Rios, you might take for granted the stability that we have in the Los Rios Community College District. But Trustee Haynes and our trustees have a long tradition of making very sound financial decisions. We have leaders from our different stakeholder groups, and I want everyone who serves on the Chancellor's cabinet to stand up from Folsom Lake. Our different stakeholder leaders who are in official positions. Let's show our appreciation to them. And they work closely with the Chancellor's executive staff who is here with me. So if the Chancellor's executive staff would stand up. If you have a chance to travel at statewide meetings and hear other colleges talk about fiscal stability, you realize how fortunate we are to have a tradition of maintaining fiscal stability in our colleges. It's hard in California. The budgets are very volatile, and let's just go back to 2020. When the pandemic hit, what did everyone think would happen to state revenues? What was the logical prediction as far as state revenues? The expectation was they would decrease because of the impact on the economy. Now you fast forward to the most recent budget, what happened to revenues in the state of California for community colleges? Largest increase maybe in history. I think probably in history, but you'd have to do some research going back over 50 or 60 years. Huge increase in revenues this year. Now why? There are some factors that won't be repeated. A lot of federal dollars flowed through to the state budget. That won't repeat. And the state is not into recession yet the way many predicted it would be. But if you've been around California budgets, they're incredibly volatile because so much of revenue depends on the top 1% of earners and capital gains in stocks. So when the stock market goes up, revenues go up. When the stock market goes down, revenues go down. So in the current year, let's celebrate the moment. Good news is good news. And as a result of really good financial planning and this increase in revenues, we have the largest retro payment, a 12% retro payment for faculty and staff. And that's great news, as well as ongoing increases across our units. And also a recognition that inflation has been brutal and more in some costs than others, like healthcare. So even with these really large increases, it's a tough economy, and California is an expensive place to live, and buying a house is a hard thing to do in California. At Los Rios, one reason we've maintained fiscal stability is because we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. And the next slide I want to share is from the Nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office, the LAO. And the top line, you don't have to read all the print, the top line is the best case scenario for revenues. That's what the state budget is built on, the best case. The middle line is where the LAO think revenues are more likely to come in, so a lower level than what the state has spent. The bottom line is within the planning parameters where it's conceivable that revenues could come in at that level. So while we're celebrating an incredibly good year, winter is always coming in the California budget, and many of you have heard the statement, which is true. You're never wrong predicting there will be a severe recession in California, right? There just will be ups and downs. You will always be wrong predicting when that recession will be. So we don't know for sure. We hope it's as far out as possible, but it will come, and we'll have to remain fiscal prudence. And the way we work together in good times serves us really well, but it's even more important in bad times to be committed to ensuring that we maintain fiscal stability. So the first thing we're going to do is what? Restore. Second thing is maintain. The third is in many ways the foundational goal and the most important goal, and that's ensuring equitable outcomes for all of our students. We don't get to the third goal if we're not successful on the first two. If we're not restoring access, and in the case of FLC, growing beyond pre-pandemic levels in the number of students we serve, we're not going to meet that third goal, because if we don't restore access, particularly the students we lost during the pandemic who were disproportionately students of color and low-income students, we're not going to have equitable outcomes until the students reflect the demographics of our region. We also are not going to have equitable outcomes for our students if we don't have adequate resources and if we don't plan well. If we get buffeted back and forth the way most community college districts in California do in the ups and downs and spend all their energy navigating fiscal uncertainties instead of planning for the rainy day the way we have for more than 50 years as a district. So I admitted I've been around for a while. I started teaching in 91 as a full-time faculty member. So from 91 to the pandemic in 2020, a small amount of change when you think about it. And who else here was working at a community college in 91? I don't think I'm the only one here, right? We've got some other people who are around. Do you agree that there has been more change in community colleges from 2020 to 23 than there was from 1991 to 2020? I see some wise gray heads nodding. I don't know how you would measure that, but I think there's been an astounding amount of change in the last 3 years, and much of it was caused by external factors like the pandemic. What percentage of courses were offered online at FLC in February of 2020? 10 to 15, something like that. So 85 to 90% of classes were on ground. March 13th, Friday the 13th, 2020, we ceased in-person operations, as everyone did. What percentage of the courses we were offering were remote on March 23rd, 2020? 100%. What services were available remotely in February of 2020 before the pandemic? Relatively few. What services were available? I hear some librarians saying the library. Did I hear that right? Okay. There were some services, but relatively few available remotely. By April of 2020 and beyond, now a whole host of services are available remotely that used to be available only in person. Like every change that happens that fast, there's good and bad, no question about it, but I want to focus on the positive today. First, in terms of online instruction, who has access to higher education because of the growth in online that did not have access before the pandemic? People taking care of generational needs in their family, adults who were working and could not come to us, so a whole host of students who maybe would be better off if they could come to college in person but simply cannot come physically in person, now have access to an array of courses they did not before. Now the question for us in making sure that we have equitable outcomes for our students is, now that we have quite a bit of data about these different modalities, we have to roll up our sleeves and see what's working for students and what is not. The demand for online courses is likely to be consistent. Anybody want to predict what the percentage online will be in 3 years? 80% online? Anybody? 50? 81. If we get enough guesses, someone will be right. The truth is we don't know for sure. What I think we do know is that we will not return to the percentages of 2019. You agree with that? Very likely that the world of 2019 is in terms of the balance between online and in-person learning will remain the same. So we have a duty to make sure that if we're providing courses online, they're meeting the needs of our students of color and making sure that every student has the same outcome, whether the modality is in person or online. And we can't allow zip code, race, ethnicity, and income to predict outcomes the way that it has historically at our colleges. So we have a tremendous opportunity moving forward to look at the data of something that we were frankly forced to do over the last 3 years. And now when you look at graduation, how many of you had a chance to go to commencement at FLC in this very place. One question, I had a chance to go to all the graduations this year. They weren't held at the same time, which was nice. And one question I asked was, how many of you have taken a class at more than one of our colleges? Now again, if you would have asked that question in 2019, it would have been a smattering of students who took a class at more than one college. We actually did the research on that. What percentage of completers, going back to Trustee Haynes' point, students who have earned a certificate or degree, what percentage in this last year of those students do you think took classes at more than one of the 4 colleges? 80 to 90, yes. So our students have benefited immensely from having access to the inventory of all 4 colleges. And that is a very different world than in 2019 and creates some tremendous opportunities moving forward to work together across departments at the 4 colleges and listen to our students about what they need to help complete now that they have found access to our 4 colleges. I think it's great if they go to our 4 colleges. You know where I don't want them to go? Any place else. So if we do a good job making the ecosystem of our 4 colleges easy for our students to navigate, they won't go outside of the Los Rios family of colleges, and that's what we want them to do. So the last 3 years have been hard. There's absolutely no question about that. But together, this should be a feeling of great satisfaction when we look at what a great job we've done together on all 3 of these goals. So restoring enrollment, we're ahead of a 5-year plan that we thought it was a bold plan to restore enrollment in 5 years to pre-pandemic levels. You saw the spring, the summer, and the fall. We're ahead of schedule, and we're not going to let up. We're not going to declare victory now. We've got work to do. And as I said, at Folsom Lake and other colleges, we have an opportunity not to just get back to where we were in 2019 in terms of enrollment, but to grow enrollment and do even better. So as we start the semester, as students come on Saturday and many more students come on Monday, after all we've been through together and all we have accomplished, there's just no doubt in my mind whatsoever that in spite of all the successes we've had over many years, the best is yet to come. You agree with me? Let's say that together. The best is yet to come. So thank you very much for an opportunity to spend some time with you today. As always, if you have thoughts, suggestions, or ideas you'd like to talk about, I'm easy to find. It's not Queen Bee at losrios.edu. It's King Bee, easy to remember. So look forward to your thoughts and opportunities throughout the next semester to talk about how we can work together in that unity of purpose on behalf of our students. So our next presenter is someone you know well, your president, Art Haynes. Art Haynes. Art Haynes is a broadcaster from way back when. So Art Pimentel is one of our groups of presidents who you have very few memories from 1979, right?
I do. Very few. Non-existent.
Yes. So Dr. Pimentel has been a tremendous addition to FLC, and we're just so happy the energy that you have brought to FLC. So let's give a warm FLC welcome to your president, Dr. Art Pimentel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chancellor King. I appreciate that. Let's give another round of applause to our Chancellor, please. Thank you for your message and your message of positivity, and we certainly are going to continue to work and build upon what we've built so far as an institution and of course as a district. One of the wonderful things that I get to do many, many wonderful things, but one of the things that I wanted to do today for Convocation as we kick off the year is we have a lot of Falcons. So I'm a new Falcon. This is my 8th month, if you could believe it or not. But it's been wonderful, and I've been welcomed in every single one of our spaces at our college, at our centers. And I want to acknowledge those that are joining the Falcon family this spring. And I'm going to tell you, the list is pretty significant, and rightfully so. We've had an opportunity to hire some wonderful faculty, administrators, and classified professional staff, and in some cases promoted some individuals. And so if you are here joining us to celebrate the kickoff of our fall 2023 semester, if you could please just stand up and wave when I mention your name so we could all see you, the college community can see you, and we can celebrate you and give you a proper welcome to the Falcon family. So I'm going to start off with Michael Abedania. Abedania is one of our new custodians. Michael, please stand up. Alexandra Avery, Assistant Financial Aid Officer. Dr. Lisette Brasil Cruz, she's the Dean of Equity and Institutional Effectiveness. Dr. Brasil Cruz is starting actually on September 11th. So we're happy to have you join Folsom Lake College. We have Wendy Campbell, our Student Support Specialist, Store to Success. Sarah Chadwick, Account Clerk 3, Business Services. Anastasia Dobson Bell, Student Support Specialist. Our Regional Director of Philanthropy, Marian Eitzman, Harris Center for the Arts. Evonn Esperanza, Counseling Clerk 2. Angela Ure, Administrative Assistant for the Dean of Visual and Performing Arts. Will Garcia, Kinesiology, Health, and Athletics Assistant Professor. Carla Hernandez, Administrative Assistant for the Dean of Student Services. And Dean of Student Success. Jasmine Curry, Student Support Specialist, Dual Enrollment Outreach. Vladislav Lee, Senior IT Technician. There he is. Tyrel Long, Laboratory Technician, Science. Brianna Margadona, Student Support Specialist, Outreach. Dmitry Matsiulka, Assistant Financial Aid Officer. Dmitry. Our very own Dan McKechnie, our Vice President of Administration. Colleen Mesa, Interim Educational Center Supervisor for El Dorado Center. Colleen. Dr. Calvin Monroe, our Dean of Student Services. Michelle Nunez, Instructional Services Assistant to Scheduling. Katie Pasilis, Clerk 3, Campus Operations. Angelica Perez, Student Support Supervisor, Soar to Success. Melanie Quintel, Student Personnel Assistant, DSPS. Melanie. Alexandra Ritz, Athletic Trainer. And Dalen Rockmore, IT Technician, El Dorado Center. Anna Rudak, Custodian. And Natalia Rudak, Custodian. Juana Ruiz, Articulation Officer and Counselor. Travis Tamanekara. Oh my God, I'm going to say that right. Travis, we're going to have to get together here so we can practice your last name. Admissions and Records Evaluator. Nancy Vasquez, Student Support Specialist, Store to Success. And that's it. Let's welcome our new Falcon family. Each and every one of you are directly impact the success of our students and make a difference for every single one of our students that are here with us. And I want to basically provide some message right from what the Chancellor message. Continue his message about unity of purpose and the power of collaboration. And I actually want to start off with a story, very briefly, that back in the late 90s, it wasn't 79, but it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a group of students that wanted to make a difference. This group of students had just started college at Sacramento State University, and we saw that the student government, shout out to our student government folks, and those who support students and student leadership. We noticed that student government did not reflect the student body at Sacramento State, both gender and ethnicity. We noticed that the voice, when there were multiple students that wanted to go before student government and make sure that there were issues of equity and diversity, that they became the forefront of what the student body wanted us to fight for at the university, was non-existent. So a group of us got together and said, we're going to run for office. We're going to get together and run for student government. And at that point, student government at Sacramento State University, they administered about $7.1 million budget. And again, they were the voice of the student body. And it didn't reflect what we wanted for there to be, what we wanted to be reflected in terms of the vision and the goals and the strategies for students. And so we got together, we put together a slate of diverse, men and women, gender diverse, ethnically diverse, and we all ran as a slate, and the slate's name was Vision. And this is an old picture. I think that my eyes are closed in this picture. It's the only one we have. But we all won. We all got elected to the board of directors at Sacramento State. And you're going to see that some of the people in this picture look pretty familiar. You have Luke Wood, who is now the president at Sacramento State University, who was on our board of directors. You have Eric Guerra, who is now the vice mayor for the city of Sacramento, who was on our board of directors. You have multiple business folks, Jennifer Schur, who's a teacher at an elementary school, or Clara Olmedo, who's now a city engineer. And we have a group of individuals that are now public servants, business owners, and we ended up working toward a goal that we had. And that was the unity of purpose, the unity of people power. And we really wanted to focus all of our energies, and the people, our student peers gave us the opportunity to do so. So how can we change the lives of our students? And the little clicker's having a hard time here. There we go. How can we change the lives of our students? That's what we're all here for. We want to know exactly what we can do. And all of us are building upon 20 years, 20 plus years, 30 years of doing the best things that we can do for our students. We have work to do, right? We have some real work to do when we talk about equity, when we talk about access, when we talk about outcomes. And I wanted to provide a little bit of data for all of you to see about the work that we have ahead as a college. So we look at our African American students. We see an equity gap of 13.6% with our Black African American students. And I know that we could do better. That's one of our goals, is to help close this equity gap that exists, and we're working on it, right? We're working on it with developing programs like PEACE and tutoring available at the Equity Center. And we know, we look at our data. All of us want to be, when we make decisions, we want to make sure that we're making data-driven decisions. And when we look at our data, we know that when our students, our Black students, our students of color have access to tutoring services, library services, when they have a sense of belonging, the achievement gap, those students have a 8 to 10% better chance of succeeding at our institution. So we want to emulate that. We want to build upon that. We look at our Latino-Latina students. The achievement gap there is 5.6. We've been doing better with our Latino students. But we want to continue to work on making sure that we're closing the achievement gap. We have right now 23% of our student population are Latina descent. We're almost at a Hispanic serving institution level. And that's what we want to, that's going to be our goal in the next couple of years, to make sure we get to the 25% so that we can become an HSI designated institution, and we'll join the rest of our sister colleges to be able to be, and the entire district will be an HSI serving district. We look at our Native American student population. We see we have an 8.1% gap with our Native American indigenous student population. Not only is our gap significant, the unfortunate thing when it comes to our Native American students is that we have lost half of our Native American students since the pandemic at Folsom Lake College. So we need to do everything that we possibly can to make sure that those students come back, that they're welcome back, and that they succeed when they come back. And we were very fortunate, every one of the colleges in our district, Folsom Lake College, we received a state $1.5 million grant. And this is going to be one of our goals, that we're going to continue to work and focus on our Native American population, looking at developing a Native American center at our El Dorado Center as an example. And so this is, again, another student population that we want to make sure that we are continuing to serve. Our foster youth students, 21.9% achievement gap. So how can we continue to build upon the youth working on our Center for Excellence as an example, EOPS, Next Up, to support the Guardian Scholars, to support our foster youth students. There's a little bit of some good news. We've been able to achieve when it comes to our veteran students. We used to see before the pandemic, there was an achievement gap that we also saw. We closed it pre-pandemic, and then we saw it again. And now we've not only closed it, but our veteran students are succeeding at a higher rate than our average students. Could we give a round of applause for our veterans? I also want to just briefly touch upon our students on academic probation. You look at our students who are on academic probation, you look at the different populations, and this is an area where we could also continue to focus on. And I know Dr. Butler and the entire student services team, this is an area of focus through the Sword to Success team. We're revamping the probation process so that we could address and try to make sure that we could get to these students when they're showing signs of trouble, so that we're not having to, they go on probation and then they end up dropping out because they feel like they can't succeed at FLC. And so I wanted to share this because this is another area, another key indicator that we are going to be focusing on to make sure that we're supporting our students and that they, again, have a sense of belonging and they can be successful in whatever they end up deciding to do. Now I want to go into opportunities for collaboration and looking at career education. We know that a large portion of our academic portfolio is a lot of it's general education. We were the last college in, the fourth college in Los Rios, right? We were just, were accredited a little less than 20 years ago, which I will touch here in just a little bit. But one of the areas of opportunities, one of the areas that I continue to hear out in the community is how could we expand workforce development? How could we expand career education programs? And that's what we're focusing. We have a new viticulture and enology program. We had a wonderful presentation this morning from our faculty on a workshop on artificial intelligence. We have an artificial intelligence certificate that this college developed in collaboration with Intel. We have a certified nursing assistant, an EMT program, and soon a fire technology partnership with the County of El Dorado, where they just built a new training facility, and we're going to start a new fire technology program. And then continue on exploring, working with our faculty, working with our community about what other areas we can expand upon so that we could provide the service that our community needs and that our students need. So continuing the good work. There's a lot of work that has happened certainly before I am here, and I want to make sure that I support the college, the innovation of the college to continue a lot of the good work that we are doing. The Chancellor mentioned the good news. Our enrollments are up. We are up. This is hot off the press. Our college is up 19.3% in student population. We want to celebrate every single milestone. And here's another one for Folsom Lake College. We have just hit, this is the first time in the history of our college where we have now enrolled, as of today, there are 10,138 students enrolled at Folsom Lake College for fall. And that is all thanks to your work, right? To the outreach that's happening, to our faculty working their magic in the classroom, right? To all of our success coaches, our academic counselors. People love Folsom Lake College, and I hear it constantly. And I'm so glad that we're seeing these numbers. There's growth that's happening organically in our communities, but our students are coming back, and now we're not only have we recovered post-pandemic, but we're now increasing in enrollments, and that is wonderful, wonderful news to celebrate. Other wonderful news is, again, the student enrollment. You see the trajectory, you see the graph of where we have been, and the significant increase that we saw in spring of 2023, but look at where we are now from spring 2023 to fall 2023. And so a significant increase in student enrollment. There's multiple reasons for that. If you look at our data, a lot more of our students are coming back in person, right? The Chancellor talked about the modalities of our students. The majority, we still have about 50% of our students that prefer online education or a combination of. So our students are enrolled online, but some of our students are also taking in-person classes, on-ground classes. And so that's really showing us in our data with our enrollment. The other wonderful thing that I believe we need to obviously celebrate is the increase in enrollment with advanced education and dual enrollment. We're now being very intentional about developing partnerships, and we always have, but now we have agreements in place with Folsom Cordova Unified and El Dorado County Office of Education so that our students in high schools can now access our courses through advanced education and also dual enrollment. And we already know, again, part of our equity strategy, we know that the sooner that we get to students, especially if they're low income, first generation students of color, they are more likely not only to go to college, but succeed when they are here with us. And again, this is just a huge sign of the work that's happened really in the last year to make sure that we are providing access, increasing access to our high school students through those partnerships with our K through 12 partners. Our centers are also slowly roaring back. They're both of the K through 12 districts in our service area, Folsom Cordova Unified and El Dorado County Office of Education, received a $250,000 middle college high school grant for exploration. And guess what? They turned to Folsom Lake College because they want to look at how we can develop and explore developing a partnership to develop a middle college high school at our centers. So Cordova High School, Folsom Cordova Unified School District with Rancho Cordova, and then of course El Dorado County Office of Education at our El Dorado Center. And so that says a lot about our institution, but also increasing access and increasing opportunities, especially to our disenfranchised populations. All of you, if you walked over here or you drove over here, you're seeing ground moving finally, where utilities are just about in and foundation is going to start being poured for our brand new 75,000 square foot science building. Let's give a round of applause for that. The targeted completion date is May of 2025. There's been a little bit of delay because of the weather. We were fortunate to have a wet winter this year. They're projecting another wet winter. We'll see. I mean, I think we're going to be hit by a hurricane or something here in the next few days, which is bizarre. But the science building is going to be known as Oak Hall. That is the next name in the sequence. If all of you didn't know, all of our buildings in FLC, this is news to me, of course, but all the buildings at the college are named after trees. And Oak Hall is the next in line for this building. So it's going to be the science building. Most of us will probably call it that, but officially it'll be Oak Hall. The other exciting thing that we are looking at working on, Dr. Flores-Pactel is working on with our faculty is because of our new science building, we will now have an opportunity to start a MESA program. And so we have a wonderful partnership with University of California, Davis. We are looking at applying for a MESA program in spring of next year because they give us the funding if we already have an identified space and if the plan is for us, basically a planning year. So our goal is to next year be applying for a MESA program and bringing it to our science building when it opens. I don't know about you, but to me, maybe you could tell a little bit, but food is my love language. Food is love language to a lot of people. And our district developed a partnership with Pacific Dining, and they're going to kick off providing food service to our all 4 colleges. But at our Falcons Roost, we'll have Pacific Dining providing food service. These are the fall hours. I invite all of you to please come, get some food, support Pacific Dining. I could tell you, if you're vegetarian or even if you're not vegetarian, they have a wonderful vegetarian sandwich that I'm somewhat addicted to, and as soon as I show up, they already start making it because they know that that's what I'm going to order. But definitely, please support, and I think it'll bring a lot of us who are working on ground, all of you who are working on ground, and of course our students. It'll provide them for a place to come and eat and really build community. And I know that's something that our student leadership and certainly all of us have really been wanting post-pandemic. We'll have a coffee cart from 7:30 to 2:30 p.m. Related to the coffee cart, want to mention that for the fall semester, this is Dan McKechnie's wonderful idea, and I think it's a very, very good one, is that we're going to be providing, in partnership with Pacific Dining, basically a free cup of coffee or tea at the coffee cart from 7:30 to 10 and 1 to 2 p.m. So some of you, I was chatting with some of you during Bagels and Brew this morning. You love your coffee. I almost thought some people were going to throw the thing at me when it was a container when it was empty. But for some of you who love coffee in the mornings and need it in the afternoon, please, we're providing a welcome back cup of coffee. Yeah. We're in a wonderful space. Again, there's just so much to celebrate, but we want to celebrate our 2023-2024 season. It was kicked off last month, and we kicked it off with a membership celebration here in this very room, and we were able to welcome 300 plus individuals, people that were members that wanted to get a first peek at the schedule for the entire season of the artists and the performers that are going to be here. And Director Marianne Eitzman would probably yell at me after this if I didn't mention that any of you who want to become a member of the Harris Center, you're more than welcome to. And if you do want to become a member, I'm a member, but Marianne, raise your hand. You could come see Marianne, and she'll be happy to sign you up to become a member of the Harris Center. and get a sneak peek at the season. The next thing is, again, lots of milestones, lots of celebrations. Feel very, very fortunate to be able to celebrate with you. But I think I mentioned this in spring. We've developed, Dan McKechnie's actually leading a planning committee, because believe it or not, next year on January 9th, 2024, we'll be celebrating 20 years of FLC's accreditation. And we are going to celebrate it big. So this is the new logo that we will be utilizing throughout the academic year and next year, because we celebrate 20 years of the existence of Folsom Lake College, and we are going to celebrate 30 years that the district focused and constructed the El Dorado Center in its current location before it was known as the University behind Rayleigh's. We have now the El Dorado Center, and we're going to be celebrating 30 years of the El Dorado Center and combining those celebrations throughout the year. And we have a planning committee. Some of you may be on that planning committee, that we're going to celebrate the years of excellence and the support that we've provided the community throughout that time. So please be ready and be on the lookout for the different celebrations that'll start early next year. But I wanted to have you show you the logo. Now, again, power of unity, power of people, power of purpose, right? We have our vision, we have our mission, we have our commitment to equity, right? And our mission needs to continue to be exactly what it is, that we want every single high school student, every single adult learner, every single individual who wants to be retrained, those in our service area, to think of Folsom Lake College first. We want them to know that they belong here, that they're welcome here. And if we don't have a program that they want, we have 3 other sister colleges where they can go and they can be successful in. And so that is the goal that we want to continue to focus on. Our students are the North Star. And I'm going to leave you with one final thought, which is a quote from Howard Schultz. When you're surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible. Have a great fall semester, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.